Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for you guys' words, prayers, and your amazing support. De corazón se los agradezco. Now, to get into the story on hand, today I want to touch on how there is vatos or camaradas, right? That they take that veterano title on the streets and use it for their benefit, right? But how cutthroat politics are inside, and how there is also camaradas that they attempt to earn their stripes with their lips, right? Even in the dispense of family. But today I want to touch on the homies from Little Valley, right? And this one camarada that was with us up in the Bay, right? He was validated. He had a lot of jugo. When I speak about a lot of jugo, I mean he was in the mix a lot, right? He was an older homie, Nani, I believe, from Little Valley, and he had came back on some weapons charge, but he had been out for a long time, right? But I guess on the streets he was still reaching out when it came to his neighborhood, right? To the Pilis, mainly Danny Boy and Chico from Hazard. Now, that's as far as my knowledge goes, right? Again, he was a good homie in the sense that everything you heard about this individual was positive, right? And I'm not gonna say I talked to him a lot, but you know, certain times you went out to a hospital out there in Crescent City, had the chance to conversate with him, right? And again, the homie had some glitch on him, right? But I want to focus, like I stated, mainly on how politics are inside. There is people that tend to want to earn it not by their knuckles or the work they're willing to put in, right? Or even the discipline that you can show in responsibility to Pilis, right? But by throwing people under the bus. Again, this had to be 2013 or 14, somewhere there, It was shortly after, or shortly before I went to the feds, right? But anyways, again, the homie was there for a gun charge, but he had been validated for a long time. Again, he was on the street doing his thing with his neighborhood, Little Valley. And, you just heard him bringing people to Danny Boy and Chico, right? Now, I don't know how far Hazard is from Little Valley, but nevertheless, that's who the homie was close to and was putting his weight with, right? Which is them two Pilis. But anyways, within time, there was another homie from Little Valley. He was down, I believe, in the Lano, level 4. And he was lifting a lot of dust, right? When it came to, it was in time that there was a lot of misunderstandings, right? And on this yard, there was a misunderstanding with the Pilichente and Cricket, right? And of course, it reached back down to Danny Boy and Chico, excuse me. And when it did, the best solution for it was to to reach out to Nanny, right? Because that was his homeboy from his neighborhood. Basically, just they wanted a intel description of the homie Vago, right, from Little Valley. And it turned out that Vago was Nani's nephew. A lot of things got said, in that aspect that they start sugarcoating Vago, right, to getting him good with the Pilis, which is kind of how it works, right? Palancas moves the world, right, including prison politics. But anyways, at the end of the day, Nani's objective was to have Vago reach out to Danny Boy and Chico, right, to start working underneath them, and he wasn't validated, so could definitely do something, right, for them when it came to getting territory, opening up, pipelines for work, money, XX, power. So, anyways, basically it got addressed like that, right? And in this yard where Vago was doing his thing, there was a worker from Terco there, and there were certain problems on the yard. For example, there's a lot of funny stuff that happens on the main lines. Just because people call them GPs don't mean they're much better than SNY, right? Me personally, I've never been there, but from hearing everybody speak about them, telling, everybody's telling on a GP. You know, everybody's better than the next man. Before the Bealies got out, everybody was at each other's throat with the Bealies name in his mouth to politic against and wash up camaradas. And that's exactly what was happening, right? With Vago. He was using Cricket's name, and there was something funny there. For example, one time they hit, next thing you know, Kaiser got dropped, squad came and snatched him up, but he never got validated. Which I'm not gonna say it don't happen. Sometimes squad comes and just tries to take order away from the yard, right? By removing the key pieces, but they don't really have the foundation to slam them at this time. But it's rare. Mainly when squad comes is because you're gonna get slammed or validated at this time, right? Nevertheless, nothing ever happened. He came back out to the yard shortly after, sin jale, right? With no work. Then afterwards, supposedly his celly got caught with the fierro. He left with work. And it was just little incidents like that, right? That you could say brought a stain to his name, right? And yeah, Bealies from the feds, they tend to want to have their reach in Cali, but at the end of the day, they can't be in tune as much as Bealies are there, right, at the moment. So anyways, when he was in that sec, at the same time the Nanny was trying to, sugarcoat and pretty for Chico and Danny Boy, this investigation is being played out, by Daryl, by Woody. Well, couple Bealies, right? They wanted answers. So, I'm not gonna call Homeboy out his name, but the style he used to me is a weenie style, right? When family goes out the window and you want to clean your act up by washing somebody up, then that speaks about the caliber of a man that you are, right? Again, I'm involved because of Terco, of the knowing and back and forth. And, by this time, we're trying to set up to where we're able to pull people out to court. And to be sincere, Terco wanted them blasted. There was just too many shady stuff on the camarada to keep going back and forth in argument, just basically try to put him to sleep, take him out, like if you're going back to court, and hit him, right? Because for whatever reason, he was good or he had luck, right, to to get away from it or get away from getting hit. Nevertheless, there's a big issue, right? Because of Nanny, of course, he's pushing for his nephew or Primo, and he wants to be able to clean that up, If it came to money wise, weapon wise on the streets, he was willing to go that extra mile for his family member. But that's what I want to touch on the most, right? When it comes to politics inside, you can't even trust your family members because that's the way politics are set up. Remember, everything is worked to the point where the closest one to you is going to be the one utilized to hurt you. It's unfortunate, but that loyalty, carnalismo, if there is some there, is when you're on the street with your neighborhood. Inside is, pilis are what they are and they have no shame in it, which they're tecatos. But there is also weenie ass camaradas or patos that blend themselves in as camaradas and they have no soldado bone in them, right? For example, Vago started trying to wash his hands using a Tecato's move, right? And started throwing his uncle or cousin under the bus. Nevertheless, or never mind, excuse me, that's his older homeboy, right? I'm telling you because I heard stories that when dude was on the streets, he was admired by the whole neighborhood, right? Which I can't say it was facts, but it's what came across my ears, right? And because he did a lot of good, right? But Bago was pressing on him, saying that when Nani was out for that long, he was on the streets, not just in Little Valley, but in certain areas around Little Valley, claiming he was that guy, with that badge. And he was collecting under the organization. Now, keep in mind, as far as I knew and heard, he was reaching out to Danny Boy and Chico, right? And when he was out, to what extent, only they know, right? But it was so much so that there was doubt implanted. Because remember, Atagato won't trust even the shadow. At the end of the day, everything goes with them. Anybody goes with them. There's no such thing as loyalty or family over La M, right? So the doubt was doubted and it became an agreement between Woody, Terco, Chico, and Danny Boy that the easiest thing was to remove them both. So, they did okey-dokey, basically pulled them out to court and one thought the next was going to get hit and due to each other, well, not each other, Bog was doing, he was a snake, he was a tecato, they both got hit. Now, it never got proved that Nanny was so, but there was just no room for doubts, right? Whatever he had done, whatever he was doing, again, when he was back there, the homie had reach or palabra, right? But his nephew took him down with him. The reason why I tell this is not to downplay the homies from Little Valley. It's more so to expand the message on how when you're inside, there's no loyalty. Even that family loyalty is, unfortunately, it ain't there. I'm not going to say everyone, but of course, you're going to be worried about everyone because you see it day in and day out. As time went on, things unfolded. They got removed. I don't know where they went after that. Nanny never came back to the Bay. I don't know about Bago, where he ended up. I know he didn't return back to where he was at. And Terco's boy and other Billy, they ended up taking that mesa and, they were reaching out, so he didn't go back to where he was at. But, loyalty, value it. when you're on the street, just 'cause somebody's been there in your neighborhood, done that, don't assume that they have the best interest for you. That system, unfortunately, does thing to people, right? Sorry, I'm not gonna say everyone, 'cause I'd be lying. But, the truth is, the system is made to circle back around to have, for the Baileys to have parents. And that goes on the dispense of anybody and anything. Remember, it's easy to say I'm gonna go in and do my thing and hoop bang and this and that's a whole different thing when you have to do it. When you're literally in a cell and your neck's on the line and you know it's in the hands of the gatos. The question is not how you gonna react, because I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of your own self. How's the next man gonna react? But I say it to say this: be wise, even to those you could say you love, right? That you know since a child, because the system has a funny way of converting people into disloyal, at least to one that's from the same neighborhood, even the same bloodline. So value freedom, value that loyalty that your neighborhood can offer you without mixing politics in it. It goes not just prison life, but politics in general is something that's gonna bring chaos. So strive for something in life. Strive for that jefita, Mother's Day, birthdays, Navidad, Año Nuevo. Even them days you say, vámonos a la playa. So don't get fooled in thinking you're gonna go in and earn your stripes and there's gonna be any type of loyalty. Loyalty lasts as long as a Tecato says it should be there. Don't put that in their hands, at least yourself. With this said, hope everybody rests well. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Muy buenas noches.